The universe is such a much bigger place, and our existence just doesn't matter. And I feel like that is a very humbling realization.
There is a higher power, whether you call it universe or God, that governs everyone's life.
Yeah.
Right. So
I feel that high power is entropy.
our today's guest is Dr. Ruchi Mehta.
Hi,
कैसे हो?
Anand. Good, how are you?
How is life? If you could talk about, how was your childhood and, growing up years?
I remember it to be a very happy and a very enjoyable time of my life. My early memories also take me back to me being very ambitious. And I think a little bit of it stemmed from the fact that I was a girl. I need to prove myself, or I need to achieve something in life to be seen, or I needed to do more than my peers who were boys to be actually seen or matter.
You did a PhD from Stanford.
So I did my undergraduate in chemical and bioengineering. That was from Johns Hopkins University in the US. There I also went on to do my PhD in
Yes.
cancer research. And that was looking at cancer stem cells. So my thesis was on cancer stem cells.
Going into Deepak Foundation and that transition, was it like a very challenging or
I was very sure that I wanted to work with Deepak Foundation.
okay?
I moved back to India, and around the same time, Sankul was, a project that Deepak Foundation had just started working on. And I visited the place, and I just thought, I found my calling.
What are some major achievements that Deepak Foundation has?
Deepak Foundation's been around for 40 years, and it's evolved as an organization depending on the needs of the hour. For about 10 years, in late 90s to early 2000s, did a massive project on reducing maternal and infant mortality. Now we work in healthcare, education, skills training, agriculture and farming, climate control, and children with special needs, of course, as well.
You have recently written a book.
Yeah, I wrote a series of books, the first of which is Ollie's Glowing Discovery. They're all written with a narrative of reminding the parent who reads the book to their child, and the child as well, instilling those values in the child as well, to embrace life's journey.
Sometimes I like to extend what people have written.
Yeah.
And with your permission,
Oh,
if I
lovely.
can
Yes, absolutely.
add a couple of lines. So now the story has ended, what you've written. Now what next happens, So all is saying, with my many arms, I wish I could have brought more. Okay. And mom said, let me tell you some values core. Even if you have brought many this long way, I would have taught you the value of giving away.
Oh, lovely. How beautiful. Amazing.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the talk show Extreme Gratitude, the talk show where we invite people who are passionate about making the world a better place to live. With that intention, our today's guest is Dr. Ruchi Mehta. Welcome, doctor.
Thank you.
कैसे हो?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for hosting us, and thank you for giving your 1 hour around that we met first time. You explained me about your life and so many things, so I really appreciate that. I appreciate that you trusted me for sharing your so many stories the first day we met, so that speaks a lot about us as well. So thank you for that. Thank you for your time.
Of course. Thanks so much for inviting me to the show. It is a very unique show, and the theme you've chosen is so relevant to today's time when everyone is chasing success and everyone's chasing high ambitions.
Right. What else? How is life?
Life's good. Trying to find meaning in the chaos. I have recently had 2 children in the last 3 years. So motherhood is a lot about redefining your purpose in life and redefining yourself, finding your new identity. So, when they say when a baby is born, a mother is born with the baby. So, experiencing that right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll start from the beginning, as in your childhood first. So if you could talk about how was your childhood and growing up years.
Yeah, I was extremely blessed with a very safe and a very happy childhood, always surrounded by family, friends. So I remember to be a very happy and a very enjoyable time of my life. My early memories also take me back to me being very ambitious. And I think a little bit of it stemmed from the fact that I was a girl. And, my father often shares this story that I have a younger brother, and I would always hear everyone in the family say that when he grows up, we're gonna send him to the US to study. And I don't have recollection of this, but I one day said, why not me? And so I think in the back of my mind that was always brewing that, I need to prove myself, or I need to achieve something in life to be seen, or I needed to do more than my brother or my peers who were boys, to be actually seen or matter.
Okay. हम जब छोटे होते हैं ना, तो हम अपने पूछते हैं कि मोटो थे ने शू बनी सैम, राइट? What was that for you? Like, did you someone ask you कि क्या बनोगे? What was your?
I wanted to be an astrophysicist.
Astrophysicist, okay.
I absolutely loved, the first time I was introduced to theory of relativity, Albert Einstein, and I would feel so passionately about astrophysics. I remember watching shows on National Geographic or Discovery or reading about it and actually having tears in my eyes. I just couldn't believe this universe that we live in, how different theories try to make sense of it, how life originated, what is our purpose on this planet, in this universe. So astrophysics is something that really interested me because it approached these questions from a scientific point of view.
What else was fascinating about astrophysics? क्योंकि मैंने एक astrophysics का इंटरव्यू लिया था, मुझे कुछ पता ही नहीं चला. I just okay, yeah, nice. So, but yeah,
I think we're so limited in our understanding of how the world works, right? And when you put it in context, the universe is such a much bigger place, and what we do just doesn't matter. Our existence just doesn't matter. And I feel like that is a very humbling realization, because...
Or probably each being's existence matters, right? I mean, of course, I know what you're trying to say,
Yeah.
कि अपना existence matter नहीं करता, which means like we have given too much importance to our existence. We are not concerned about other beings. I mean, like human beings are the topmost.
Yeah.
But there are so many other beings in the universe that...
Absolutely, but I really do believe that no matter how many theories we come out with, the patterns we try to find, brains are designed in that manner that we try to find patterns. But I really believe that whatever happens in life is random.
Okay.
And I find a lot of peace and a lot of anchoring in the chaos, in knowing that life is chaotic, life is random, and only in hindsight can you put all the pieces together and see the big picture. But we have, I really feel free will is a delusion. There's no such thing. We're influenced by the people we're around, by the circumstances that we put ourselves in, by the upbringing we have. So many other factors that are beyond our control. So
then probably you realize that, okay, there is a higher power, whether you call it universe or God or something else, right? That is there to, that governs everyone's life.
Yeah.
Right. So
I feel that high power is, entropy.
And
the randomness of this universe, the chaos of the universe, and things are not done by design, but they just happen.
They just happen. Yeah. Do you think that chaos gives birth to clarity?
I think acceptance of chaos gives birth to clarity.
Okay.
Accepting that not everything in life has to make sense. We search these answers and we seek the truth, but there is no such thing. There is, in Jainism, there's a concept, anekantvad, which means there is no single truth, right? It just depends on your perspective, and one truth can be seen from so many different angles, different perspectives, and everyone's perspective is the truth.
Okay.
So,
मजा आता है ऐसी बातें करके. Okay. Like your growing up years, and what were the value system that were given to you by your parents?
I think a lot of emphasis on hard work and making something of yourself, and we had the freedom to choose what that would mean and what that would look like. So even if it comes to helping other people, give the best, do your best. There is no room for negligence or no room for laziness. And there were times when I was so resentful towards my parents for being so hard on me, but I can't thank them enough now for instilling those values in me. Because in business or in professional life, I've also been a professional. I've worked in the healthcare sector before I started working in the social sector. If you miss a deadline, if you don't perform well, it may impact your profits, it may impact your career graph. But in the social sector, if you don't perform well, it's impacting someone's life. So there's all the more motivation to actually work hard and deliver the best, do the best that you can for changing someone else's life.
And I felt that, I realized that when I went to Sankul Deepak Foundation, or I saw multiple places there, especially the palliative care, right? I mean that department. तब मुझे लगा कि your work is more responsible, you are more accountable than just making profits or doing marketing or sales stuff, right? What you are doing is more accountable क्योंकि it directly impacts someone's life. So बहुत बड़ी बात है.
Yeah, exactly. If a project ends, it's not just okay, ये खत्म हुआ, अभी fundraising करके दूसरा project start करना. It's a service that actually transforms someone's life has ended.
Yeah.
And this is the only thing that people had to hold on to in tough times.
Yes.
And now that doesn't exist, right? So it's a huge responsibility. Having said that, when you work in the social sector and when you're so emotionally involved, it's very important to take care of your own mental health. And that's something I've learned over the years.
I'm also learning that because मैं आजकल काफ़ी जैसे आपके यहाँ पे गया था, ऐसे अलग अलग गेस्ट के जो भी है उनके इवेंट्स में जाता हूँ. I sometimes feel that I should also focus on my mental health because I also get so much emotional looking at these things. For example, मैं जब मोहित शूट करने गए थे आपके यहाँ पे, सो आप बाजू में ही आई थिंक वो ब्लाइंड वाला जो डिपार्टमेंट है, देयर वाज वन किड ही इज ब्लाइंड एंड आई थिंक ही इज मेंटली आल्सो नॉट वेल. और मैं तो देख के रो ही पड़ता हूँ मुझे, फिर आई हैव टू गो आउटसाइड बट आई एम रियलाइजिंग दैट यू आर राइट, वी हैव टू मेक श्योर दैट you have to be strong.
Because I also have kids in my home, I also have a family, and they also deserve to see the best in me. They also deserve to see me happy with what I'm doing, right? And this is such a relentless job. No matter how much you do, you're never going to feel satisfied, right? So I'm learning how to detach, how to do the best, but also because those emotions are not helping me perform better or are not helping me to help them better.
Correct.
You know, or human beings ko hai na, we take pleasure in feeling sympathy.
Yes.
And I think it is nobody needs sympathy.
Yeah.
Nobody needs sympathy. You know, even these blind children, physically challenged children, they're happy. हमको उनको देख के पता नहीं why there's a turmoil of emotions, and we feel sad for them, we feel sorry, we feel grateful that we have so much. And I think that is actually doing injustice to them, because somewhere we are implying that they're lesser beings than us, or we're implying that they have less than us, which they don't think. They don't think that way. They don't believe that. So that's a big learning I got from that they're not subjects of charity. They are just like us, who have aspirations, hobbies, who fall in love, who have heartbreaks. So I think it's time we as society realize that it's not enough to just feel sympathetic towards people who have less, or
sometimes it becomes like ego feed thoda ho jata hai.
Absolutely. I think going on a feeling sympathy for someone else is definitely, there is an ego role for your ego to play, because you feel in a position where you're superior to someone, where you can feel sorry for them.
Okay, coming back to your childhood.
Yes. My childhood.
You did a PhD from Stanford.
No, so I did my undergraduate in chemical and bioengineering. That was from Johns Hopkins University in the US. Like I said, I was very ambitious since I was a little child. When I was too little, I didn't understand what I want to do. As you know, astrophysics and everything was interest, but I wanted to stand out from the crowd. I remember that to be my earliest aspiration, that I want to be different. I want to be able to stand out of the crowd. And but I think around 14, when I was 15 years of age, I was first introduced to genetics and genetic engineering in my Gujarat board science textbook. And I had goosebumps. When I learned how DNA is replicated. And that's when I decided that I want to do molecular biology or genetic engineering. So that's what I went on to do to Johns Hopkins in the US. It was one of the best biomolecular engineering schools. And yeah, I got in. So that's what I went to do. It was definitely a dream come true.
Nice. Okay. Now, little bit fast forward to you got married, and then how was that life like? How did you get started?
So before we fast forward all the way to there, I also went on to do my PhD in cancer research, and that was looking at cancer stem cells. So my thesis was on cancer stem cells. Like I said, the value of hard work that was instilled in me when I was still a student doing my undergraduate. I wrote out to the top-notch celebrity scientists across the world. And I must have written to at least 7,500 of them who were doing cancer research, because I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Achha.
And I got few responses, and I made sure I flew across the world to get an interview with them. कैसे भी करके I worked extra hours. I took part-time. I had part-time jobs. I took extra hours. Made sure that I get the chance to at least interview with them and at least meet them, right? Even if it doesn't translate into a PhD role. But fortunately, I did get a PhD position with Sir Walter Bodmer, who was the chairman of Human Genome Project. It's a very famous project in genetics. So I was very lucky to.
मुझे ऐसा क्यों लग रहा है कि like you are a female version of Mohan Bhargava from Swadesh. You're like you was there, but you wanted to come back to India.
So I also
like highly intellectual, genius, but in India.
See, I told you earlier that I really believe that in randomness and chaos, so I don't really plan my life too much.
Achha, okay.
I go with the flow, and I trust that if I am honest, if I'm true to myself, I'll end up in a good place. And that's what happened. So I was working in London in healthcare, and I met Megha, my husband now.
Mm.
And I didn't, everyone used to ask me, what are you going to do in Baroda? Like, why are you moving to Baroda? And I never thought of it like that. I just thought that here's a man that I met who is everything that I would want in a life partner. And then what he did, where he lived, where I would have to move, what I would have to do is all secondary. And we'll figure it out. And I figured it out. It's been 8 years.
Okay.
And I've figured it out. Yeah.
Okay. So like because I mean it's a big step to coming out of from this world of PhD and all these things. Was it like I'm sure of course it's not a sacrifice, but then how did you convince yourself or your mind ki okay now I have to leave this and then going into Deepak Foundation and that transition, was it like a very challenging or?
So it was definitely very challenging, very difficult journey, but not because of anything else. It was I was very sure that I wanted to work with Deepak Foundation.
Okay.
I moved back to India, and my husband and my father-in-law tried very hard, or were extremely supportive, and helped me to find something to do here worthwhile that I wouldn't regret coming to Baroda. But around the same time, Sankul was a project that Deepak Foundation had just started working on, and I visited the place and I just thought I found my calling. That place, it wasn't a massive transformational moment, but I went there, I loved the place, and I said, this is what I wanted to do. This is what I want to do. I didn't have a big vision for the place. It was, there was nothing happening at that time, 8 years ago at Sankul. It was a dead place.
Achha.
But somewhere something spoke to me, touched my heart, and I just thought, this is what I'm going to work on right now. I didn't think 8 years later I would still be doing that, or I would still be working at that place. But one thing led to another, and here I am still with Deepak Foundation.
Yes. But I see both things are very different, as in like here you are like Dr. Ruchi Mehta, and then the Deepak Nitrite Group, right? I mean, because I just found that like they started this thing as a, I mean, they were actually started the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative kind of, because they replaced that that dependency on Europe for this nitrite right thing, and that is a legacy that you'll be carrying, right? So how was that? Did you look at from that point of view कि ये बहुत बड़ी जिम्मेदारी है, and because it's a different thing, right? Totally.
Yeah. So I mean,
coming into this family basically.
Yeah, and it's a very difficult thing to navigate as an ambitious person. When you come into a family, and that's something that was initially difficult, right? I was brought up to be and encouraged to be ambitious and make something of myself, and cut to I'm in a family where the family serves the family business, the family serves the family foundation. So it's a family enterprise, and we are just guardians of whatever the family has, be it the business, the foundation, the wealth. And it is a responsibility. It's a responsibility and also an opportunity and also a privilege to be able to serve the foundation. This is something Dada, Mr. C.K. Mehta, who started the foundation, would say that આ તમારા પુણ્ય છે કે તમને આવું કામ કરવા મળે છે. So that line is just,
that's very nice way to put it, right? This is the opportunity.
Yeah. So, and it's your good deeds that have given you the opportunity to do this work. Yes.
How was he like? If you can talk to us about like his attitude towards life. I mean, whatever.
Your show is too short for that.
No. But please, I mean, personally, I would love to know.
Yeah. Everyone is going to have a different opinion about him because he was so much to so many
because I
people.
have similar kind of that feeling, like probably Dhirubhai Ambani शायद ऐसे होंगे जैसे C.K. Mehta
Yeah,
साहब थे,
certainly.
right?
Like, what a life! What an extraordinary life he's led. And we all see his successes. It's a rags to riches kind of a story. But things that happened to him in his life, it's not an ordinary life, right? No, किसी भी हम लोगों के साथ ऐसा नहीं होता है. The things that he did, and again, like I feel like randomness also, he would just तुक्का लगाया कहीं and lag gaya, but you need like a heart of stone to be able to take the chances that he did. And that's what was absolutely extraordinary about him, that he was a man of steel, really. The risk appetite was so high. Another thing that really stood out about him is that he cared so much for people around him. He made so many people's lives.
Is like he passed away, I think, few years back.
Yes, just last year.
How was he, in his last years? Like,
I think there were a lot of moments where he felt very nostalgic. He shared, I was very lucky to hear a lot of his stories that I couldn't witness about his early days, how he started the company, how he was as a child, how he felt really ridiculed, how poverty really failed him, right? Like he felt like he was a nobody, and that's what he wanted to come out of. So
क्योंकि मैं तो like as an outsider, what I know is just that कि हम वहाँ से आनंद से अगर वडोदरा आता है तो then नंदेसरी is the railway station बाहर हमें देखने को मिलता है फैक्ट्री. If I see that, मुझे लगता है कि बाप रे इतनी बड़ी फैक्ट्री. Like I mean, it is amazing.
You should
right?
see Dahej, it's even bigger. The factory.
हाँ मतलब तब भी लगता है कि बाप रे, मतलब क्या thought process होते होंगे, क्या actions ली होती होगी, right? To have this.
Yeah, I mean,
so,
like I said, we wouldn't even imagine the things he did. Like, $10 लेके एक महीने के लिए he went to the US to get certain raw material that wasn't available anywhere in the world.
Risk
and
and
risk-taking appetite, and the belief he must have had in himself that I'll manage. जो भी होगा, we'll manage. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then, coming back to then Deepak Foundation. Now that you are a trustee, how was your role before you became a trustee, and what is the difference now?
I think nothing. I've worked as a team leader. I've worked as, I started as with an even more junior position. Then there was a time when I wasn't employed with the foundation. Now I'm a trustee. So I think it doesn't matter what role I have. That's irrespective, right? It's just a name or a title on paper. It's the ownership you feel within, and I don't think that's changed over the years. And the ownership comes not towards the foundation, but towards the people we work for or the people we serve. So being a team leader or being a trustee makes no difference in how I feel towards my role or towards my responsibility towards the society.
What are some major achievements that Deepak Foundation has after you joining, or probably as a becoming a trustee?
Yeah, so I wouldn't link it to me joining the foundation or trustee, but Deepak Foundation's been around for 40 years, and it's evolved as an organization depending on the needs of the hour. So the foundation's done everything from disaster relief, and that's how it was first started. There were some floods in Amreli, and Dada, Mr. C.K. Mehta, just packed all his clothes in a bag and took it there. And and just donated all the clothes and came back in what he was wearing. So that's where it started. That's how Deepak Foundation had first started, and or his first philanthropic activity had started.
Okay.
And he donated so much cattle because people lost their cattle, their source of livelihood in the floods. So he donated so much cattle to the farmers, to the villagers. And that's where it started. Then We have a small hospital in Nandesari, Deepak Medical Foundation. We, for about 10 years in late 90s to early 2000s, did a massive project on reducing maternal and infant mortality.
Acha.
You know, up until in the 90s, the infant mortality in India was so high. कि 5 साल के, the chances of a child surviving over the age of 5 was so low, and that was also part of the reason why people had so many kids. So we did a massive project for reducing infant and maternal mortality in Gujarat, and now we work in healthcare, education, skills training, agriculture and farming, climate control, and for children with special needs, of course, as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you see challenges, like as a trustee, do you feel any challenges in running the show, or how do you look at this?
Social problems are so difficult to solve, and right, like if you're in this field for instant gratification, to feel good कि हम अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं, so this is not the right field for you, because you will never feel that.
Okay.
There is so much to do, right? अगर social problems could have been solved so easily, they wouldn't exist, right? Because people have been at it for centuries. Today also if we have a child with special needs in our family, we all struggle. Parents struggle, the child struggles. So these problems or these social issues take decades and centuries to go away. And I think one just needs to be patient with it and relentlessly work towards it. So if the short answer is no, I've not seen any transformation in the last 18 years, but
any transformation as in?
We've not seen transformation कि ये पहले problem था और अभी नहीं है.
अच्छा, okay.
Right? Because like I said, it takes decades and centuries to change the social construct. हम जो society में रहते हैं, जैसे सोचते हैं, that is a product of evolution. Thousands and thousands of years of what has happened before us. So just the stigma around disability, around death, around illnesses, these are going to take really long to go away. So we do our part and then hope that things will get better.
What is one thing that is or one cause that you are most related to, that is close to your heart?
I think children. Absolutely. And be it children with special needs or children from lower economic background or just children in general. I love the innocence. I love the aspirations they have, the possibilities. They have their whole lives ahead of them. And I wish we could all continue living like children forever, but we don't. At some point we grow up or are forced to grow up. But I absolutely love working with children, be it providing quality education to poor children from lower economic strata or children with special needs, or equipping them with emotional intelligence, life skills. So yeah, just children in general is an area where I would like to.
You visit Sankul frequently, like how many?
I'm completely involved. I'm involved in day-to-day functioning of Sankul. I have hour-to-hour updates on what's happening there. So I'm completely, working on field in that sense at Sankul and palliative care also.
Okay. Yeah. What else do you do at Deepak Foundation apart from being trustee? Like, how do you, have meetings with the staff members, or how do you get connected to the lowest part of that Sankul?
Yeah. So Anvit, the good thing is when I started, I wasn't a trustee. And I never conducted myself as a family member or the owner of Deepak Foundation, right? In fact, I came from a place where I felt like I had to prove myself to the team of Deepak Foundation that I'm worthy of working here. because they had been with Deepak Foundation for many more years than I had, and I was just this fresh entrant who had, you know, foreign return, who has worked in fancy companies and fancy universities. So I came from a place where I felt like I had to prove myself to the foundation team that I'm worthy of joining your cause. I would like to believe, and I feel that I am approachable, and I feel like I can have an honest conversation with everyone at the foundation. Doesn't matter which or what position they are from. You know, they could be a head of department, or they could be a new joinee.
And how do you like if you have any good idea about, you know, improving Deepak Foundation, and like how do you approach to the people there, staff and, you know, project managers there? Like do you give them, you know, like a space to, you know, give their opinion to you, or it's like one-sided that okay?
No, absolutely. I do give them a lot of space to hear their opinion, and also to challenge my thoughts, because, you know, I may have an idea and I may think this is the best solution, but if they are the people who are working with tribal children, tribal farmers, and they know the best, right? They're there day in and day out. So I definitely give them space to challenge my opinions as well as voice their opinions. But I'm extremely hard on them. Because I demand a lot out of my team.
Okay.
You know, there is no kal hoga, ke ho raha hai, kar rahe hai. I have no space for that in my working style.
Achha.
So I'm very hard, but I also tell them that, you know, for you have to listen to me for an hour and you can go back to what you're doing, but I have to live with myself. The tone that I use for you, I use it on myself also. So I'm not expecting something out of you that I wouldn't deliver for myself.
Okay.
So I think I could be a little less tough on the team, but I admire their hard work. I love how they show up in times of adversity.
Okay.
You know, kabhi kuch galat ho jata hai. I know that my team will be there at any hour of the night. If anything goes wrong anyway. And they all work with honesty. That is integrity and honesty. These are, I mean, as cliche as it may sound, but extremely non-negotiable values that the team has.
How do you appreciate your team?
Just with words of appreciation.
Okay.
Giving them more responsibility. If you do well, you get more work to do. Yay.
Okay.
But giving them an opportunity. So we've also introduced within the foundation to projects. So all our projects are approved by CSR committees, right? Whether it's of Deepak Group or other, we also do CSR projects for other corporates, and we also work with the government. So when these contracts are in place, the MOUs are in place, and we have to work within the framework of these contracts. But I have personally just recently introduced a fund where if someone wants to help someone on field, they have the ability to.
Okay.
Like they have the freedom to. They don't have to get any approvals, permissions, but it's just they can take the best judgment, best call, and if they feel that they need to help that person, they can extend that help in financial. I mean, this particular project is in form of financial help.
Right.
But direct cash benefits also go a long way for the needy. So
I think that is the biggest freedom that as a manager or as a owner you can give to your employees, right? I mean, because they did not need to ask you each and every time, right? And that gives them a confidence also, right? Ki, okay, hum kar sakte hain.
Absolutely. And the pleasure, right? They should also get the pleasure of being able to help someone. And this idea actually came because we had an experience where little girl was in the hospital, and I was just helping out their family because spending a month is a financial drain on the hospital, on the family. So they had spent a month in the hospital, and I was financially helping in, but I was the project coordinator was helping them out. You know, like the money went through him. And when everything was done, he said to me that, you know, madam, bhale paisa tame aapya, par mane એવું લાગ્યું કે મારા હાથે કંઈ સારું થયું. And that really touched my heart. And that's why we introduced this, fund where every member of Deepak Foundation has the ability to help wherever they feel they need to.
And I think that is where emotional intelligence comes into picture, right? Your favorite topic.
Yeah.
So to understand your not only staff, but whoever is above you, below you, right, and everyone.
I honestly don't see anybody as above me or below me. We're just all human beings, and we all long for connection. We all have, I think somewhere we all live the same lives. पैसे है नहीं है और problems है नहीं है. Nobody is exempt from difficulties in life, and everyone gets their share of joy in life. I genuinely believe that, no matter where you're from and what you are.
Okay, yeah. You said that you don't think much or plan about life, but of course I think for Deepak Foundation you must be having some vision, right? What is that?
I personally would like to continue working or introducing services that don't currently exist in the society, at least India mein nahi hai.
Okay.
Jaise one project that we're doing, palliative care for cancer patients. Cancer, of course, is such a taboo, right? Like we all have goosebumps when we hear the word, yet we all have a family member who has suffered from cancer or is suffering from cancer. So, and the incidence of cancer is also increasing, detection is increasing. So, palliative care is the concept of introducing pain management and psychological support from the day you're diagnosed with cancer. Very often it's misinterpreted as end-of-life care, but it's not just that. It's even the day you're diagnosed with cancer, palliative care should be introduced. So this is a very good example of a service in the society that doesn't exist, right? It's not very widespread, not just for low economic section. It doesn't even exist for people who can afford it. So I think we would like to introduce new projects as models that can be replicated and scaled by us as well as other organizations. I'm also a huge believer in collaboration. So working in collaboration with the government is a big way forward for us. We've done it for the past 20 years, if not more. We've had many successful projects working with the government. Sankul also is a public-private partnership. So this is something we would like to continue doing in the future as well. We're stronger together.
Okay. Yes. So about funds to run Deepak Foundation. How do you do you increase the funds year on year basis, or how does that work?
Yeah, so that's a great motivation for the company to make more profits, right? Because CSR allocation is a percentage of the profits.
Yeah.
But Deepak Group, even before this law was in action, the company CSR Act, the company, the family has been giving so much towards the foundation. We do a lot of CSR projects for other corporates, and we also work in partnership with the government. So I would say the company CSR makes up only about 30-40% of the total expenditure of the foundation. The rest comes from other partners and other stakeholders. With the government, we're currently running a very big program. So the government's initiative to make India TB-free, tuberculosis free by 2025. We're one of the implementing agencies for the government, and we've screened lakhs of people, and we work in every aspect from early detection of tuberculosis to treatment to post-treatment monitoring of the tuberculosis patient. We have diagnostics that go into very remote areas of villages where no hospital can reach. And our diagnostic van is called Nidan Van, and it has portable X-ray machines, other diagnostic tools that help us to achieve this goal.
Okay. Have you guys thought of thalassemia as well?
No, thalassemia is not something we currently work on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You when we discuss about offline, you mentioned about that you are investing into other companies or
Yeah.
organization who are working for
Yeah.
social causes.
Yeah.
So like what is that?
So there are two things to it. One, I am a Gujarati at the end of the day, and I have love and affinity towards finances. I love, I love investing. I love finances. So, which it opened up a new avenue for me in my career as an investor. And I chose my field to be an impact investing. So that's the area I wanted to focus on because of what I'm doing with Deepak Foundation. And I also feel that while philanthropy and NGOs have a role to play in social good, companies have a very efficient way of tackling social problems. I always give this example कि एक NGO कोई remote गांव में they'll put a solar panel, but it may 1-2 साल के बाद it may not function. But if a company puts a solar panel there, it will make sure that it's serviced, the revenue continues coming from there, and both parties benefit, the business as well as the village where the solar panels are put. So
because of how that the management that or
absolutely.
the processes
I think
work,
it's more in some areas, companies, for-profit companies would be more efficient and more impactful in bringing a change.
Yes, I agree.
So that's why,
because of the I think mentality that happens, because when it is making a profit or like it is working
absolutely,
as a business
it's
level,
self-sustaining,
then it is like it's totally different mindset actually.
Absolutely. So it's self-sustaining. And like I said, different problems have different solutions. So while NGOs, no for-profit company may look at elimination of TB. That's where NGOs and government play a role.
Right.
And for providing services to the underserved is something that for-profit companies can do.
Okay.
So my journey as an impact investor started with a company called Haq Darshak.
Haq Darshak.
Yes, Haq Darshak.
Okay.
And what they do is, it's a tech-assisted model where they link people to government schemes. There are thousands of government schemes available, welfare schemes.
Okay.
Ayushman Bharat, widow pension scheme, scholarship schemes. But people are not aware of it. People who are eligible for them don't know about it, or they have to take a day out of work to visit the local panchayat or wherever these schemes are being approved. And that's a loss of wage for those people as well. So people just don't do it. So
this is, I think, similar to what Shruti is doing. Shruti Chaturvedi, like, I mean, she also told me the same thing, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
So there are a couple of organizations that work in this field. Deepak Foundation, we do this ourselves. The difference with Haq Darshak is that they've invested in the technology. So they're able to do it much faster and on a much bigger scale than NGOs.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see this one in the website. Is it there?
No, so because I'm doing it as my personal capacity as an impact investor. So this is different from Deepak Foundation.
Deepak Foundation. Okay.
So we support the incubator and IIM Ahmedabad as well. And a lot of amazing social entrepreneurs have come out of that incubator. We've given grants to companies that provide drone as a service for early detection of infestations in farms. So if your crops are infested with pests or certain microorganism, so by the time your naked eye or the farmer can detect it with his eyes, it's too late. Half of the farm would have probably been infested by then. So this company has created a technology where using drone, has applied this technology where using drones, spectrophotometry, they infrared rays say they scan the farms and they detect the infestation very early on so that there's no loss of produce. And
government ka bhi, I think, there is one plan? Drone Didi करके कुछ है.
So I mean,
Yeah,
you know, we are an agricultural country at the end of the day, and we will have to, you know, adopt technology for more efficient farming to reduce the drudgery on farmers and the workforce.
So if you become a Shark Tank,
I would love it. I'm a huge Shark Tank buff.
Okay.
I feel like even when I was pregnant, I used to watch so much Shark Tank on repeat that I feel like my children गर्भ संस्कार में उनको ये तो definitely मिला होगा. But the Shark Tank US also. So I've been watching it for years, way before Shark Tank India had started, and of course now I love the Shark Tank.
what would
India also.
like what would be one or two things that you would see in the whoever is trying to pitch their product or services? What one or two things that you will like? Okay, yes, I love this thing.
I feel what I really like about entrepreneurs is someone who has seen very difficult days and has survived out of it, has come out on the other side, right? Because that is your proof of concept. And that happens to every entrepreneur's in every entrepreneur's journey. Tough times come, and the founder needs to show the resilience and the ability to overcome those tough times. So if that has been demonstrated before, that is a huge plus. And second is having their understanding of what the consumer wants. A lot of times people have great business ideas because they've lived a certain life, but they're very detached from reality on how the consumer thinks or what people really need and want. So
or the user experience.
Yeah, the user experience as well.
Consumer needs, I think.
Yeah. And third is financial management, financial hygiene.
Financial hygiene.
Lot of,
nice word. मैं पहली बार सुना. Okay.
So a lot of good companies fail, even if the founder is very, very hardworking. If the product is very good, consumers love the product. But अगर financial, I think every entrepreneur must be a good CFO as well. They need to know how the balance sheet healthy. The balance sheet of
we'll start watching Akshat Srivastav's podcast. You have seen Akshat Srivastav?
No, I haven't.
He is a financial analyst basically. He talks about finance only. He teaches finance basically. Okay, anyway. Nice. Okay. So what else about Deepak Foundation that I might have missed to ask you, but you want to convey that?
I'm just trying to think any other company.
Any new projects that you are planning or anything that you want to share?
I think going forward, the foundation, we would really like to focus on meeting the needs of our factory workers. Okay. Although that it doesn't fall under CSR, but there are huge industrial areas in Gujarat and in India where the workers need a better life, and a lot of companies are working towards them, right? Like there are lakhs of factory workers whose children need good education, whose families need good health care. So I think that is going to be our focus area going forward, where we provide better services for factory workers, because very often they are migrant workers who have traveled or daily travel for hours to come work in factories. So, and because these are not legally covered under CSR, they're ignored. But I think we all need to put in efforts in designing better lives for them and better workspaces for the factory workers.
Last question about Deepak Foundation. Was there any lowest moment?
I think I don't want to. I'm trying to think of all my experiences with the foundation.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think lowest moments, but what I'm only fortunately coming. Only good memories are popping in my mind, and a few things that I would like to share that I've learned from the people that we serve, or the underprivileged, quote unquote, that the term we use to refer to them as. One thing from children is just resilience, undying spirit. no matter what. Like, they have nothing. Their families have abandoned them. They either probably have a disability or no one to vouch for them except for the foundation team that actually works with them. But there's so much confidence in them, so much joy that whatever happens, we'll,
Maybe I think they're thinking less. We are too much on thinking.
But I think that's also a good philosophy to adopt, a good way of life to adopt, that plan for the contingencies that and think of everything that can go wrong. You're not living in the moment. And that's something that they've really taught me to do. That just, joy. Like, it's not, we to call it gratitude, but for them it's just a way of life. They enjoy what they have and they enjoy the moment that they live in. So that's one thing. Second, when we work with tribal farmers and all these people, the confidence that they have. So often, when we are put in another setting, we feel like we don't fit, or we hesitate to voice our opinions. I've seen women in tribal areas just so confident, and they will not, whether it's speaking to the collector or speaking to the foundation team, they're just so uninhibited. If you want to see really empowered women in India, this is the place to go to. Tribal women, they are not, we like to believe कि patriarchy है, women को दबा के रखते हैं. But these women are not like that. They're empowered women who take charge of their household, who make decisions in their families. I have seen women who will, go lengths to fight for the village, let aside their household, right? For the well-being and the best interest of their village.
Wow, okay. Nice. Now, we'll go a little bit, like your other hobbies or passion, that you've recently written a book.
Yeah.
The title is Oli's Glowing Discovery.
Yeah.
Right?
Oli's Glowing
Oli's
Discovery, yes.
Why did you write that book, and what was that motivation for?
I feel like our kids they'll all go to good schools. They'll all learn maths, English, science. ये सब सीखेंगे ही. They'll travel the world. They'll see. They'll have all the exposure. So what else can I give them? What is that is absolutely integral to their life, and that is emotional intelligence, coming back to that topic, and life skills. So with that aim, I wrote a series of books, the first of which is Oli's Glowing Discovery, and they're all written with a narrative of reminding the parent who reads the book to their child, and the child as well, instilling those values in the child as well, to embrace life's journey.
Yeah, maybe if we can have that book, we can, just...
Yeah.
I have read this book.
Okay.
Not one time, but 2-3 times. And I'll tell you about something.
Okay.
But yeah, you go on.
I hope you didn't find a mistake. That
No, it's not a mistake. It's about...
रात को नींद नहीं आएगी.
नहीं. Yeah, please go ahead.
So I feel like our children, they will go to good schools. They will learn math, science, English. They will travel the world, exposure, sab unko milega. But so what is most important for me to do as a parent to them is to equip them with life skills, to make them, resilient human beings who know how to be happy. A lot of times हमारे पास सब कुछ होता है, but we still struggle to, focus on what we don't have or what we aspire to have. So I'm also embarking on that journey in the process of teaching the same to my children. My first book, Oli's Glowing Discovery, it's based in the ocean because I'm also an advanced diver, and my husband and I both love diving.
Okay.
So an octopus is my most favorite ocean creature. So that's the protagonist of this book is also an octopus.
Okay.
And this particular book is about embracing life's journey
Hmm.
and not getting too caught up on the end goal or
Yeah.
ambitions that you're trying to chase.
Because you published this book on Amazon as well, right?
Yes, it is
And I
available
was
on
just going
Amazon.
through the reviews that
Okay.
viewers
Yeah.
have given. I'll just
Yeah.
say a couple of those.
Yeah.
Okay. So someone is saying that beautiful story, easy read, and lovely artwork.
Yeah.
My 3-year-old really enjoys me reading this book to her. I also bought a few extra copies to give my nephews and niece.
That's lovely.
Someone has said the book is nice. The readers meet a lot of sea animals. The story has a message which has to be explained by the parents. My kids enjoy this one.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I enjoyed also.
Thank you. I'm very glad to hear that.
Nice, very nice. As I said, I have read couple of times. Sometimes I like to extend what people have written,
Yeah.
and with your permission, if I
Lovely.
can,
yes, absolutely.
add couple of lines.
I would look forward. Yeah, I really want to hear
Can
that.
I
yes.
really?
Yes, please do.
Okay, because it matches with your theme of giving back to society and all. So I've tried to see from Ollie and his or her, his his mother point of view. Okay, so now the story has ended. What you've written. Now what next happens? So Ollie is saying, with my many arms, I wish I could have brought more. Okay. And mom said, let me tell you some values core. Even if you have brought many this long way, I would have taught you the value of giving away.
Oh, lovely. How beautiful. Amazing.
Right? I mean, that was the whole idea.
Beautiful. Great extension to what's in the book.
Thank you. All right. Yes. So, yeah, nice book, and I'm sure people would love it to show it to their.
Yeah, I would really
relative.
want this to reach as many children as possible.
Yeah.
Because I've written it with that purpose
Absolutely.
for parents and children to enjoy the journey together, their
Right.
life's journey.
Right. Okay. And now almost we are towards the end of the conversation, but a couple of topics are very I mostly ask to all the guests about personal life, as in your thoughts about loving the self, or how do you practice forgiveness in life, or your thoughts about spirituality. Like, would you like to talk about any of these things?
I'm putting in work towards that. Also because it's worked so well for me, right? Like being dissatisfied with what I am has really pushed me to be better. So it's worked in my favor, but I'm learning to strike a balance between the two to continuously improve myself, better myself, and also accepting where I am today and who I am today. So I think it has to be a balance, because complete acceptance and only love for yourself also can make you a little lazy. So
Okay. Right.
I think I would continue to want to push myself to be better for sure.
Okay.
But art of loving yourself is also something I need to learn or practice more.
Right. About spirituality.
Okay. So spirituality for me has meant different things in different stages of life. I love the topics of science and spirituality, right? And these are just debates. I don't think I have answers in my head, but I love to hear different perspectives. And my guilty pleasure is watching Richard Dawkins have these debates with different religious leaders. But there's so much wisdom from every religion and I very often people talk about religion and spirituality being so different, but I feel they're two sides of a coin. Religions encourage you to embark on a path of spirituality, right? And there's so much to learn from every religion. So I like how Jainism talks about anekantvad, like multiple truths. I love how Hinduism talks about
Vedant.
Vedant.
Probably Aham Brahmasmi, like, the whole,
Yeah,
I am the universe.
absolutely. The universe resides in me. I'm the universe, and the universe resides in me. Absolutely, that's extremely beautiful. Also, the concept of rebirth, because to me it's very scientific, right? And this is how I explain death to my 3-year-old as well. That when people die, their soul goes to God, and God makes it a star, and our bodies go to earth and become soil and give birth to other life forms like plants. So I think the concept of rebirth in Hinduism is very similar to what science also talks about.
Okay. All right. I think we are good with this podcast. Is there anything else that you want to ask before we go to the last round, which is rapid fire? It is funny, don't worry. इतना deep में इतना serious नहीं बनाएंगे.
कि मैं funny answer. I hope I can give funny answer.
No. That will be nice. मजा आएगा. But yes, but before we close, anything that you want to share, want to convey message to the audiences, to people, to anyone,
Yeah, I think this was a realization that I had, and I would really want people to know that social good is not a one-off birthday or death anniversary to do something. It's a way of life, Just be nice to the people around you. They don't even have to be your house help or anyone. Just be nice to your husband or your kids or your mother or father. Just live a good life, be a good person to the people around you, and that's enough. Charity begins at home, and this is the first step in doing social good.
Nice. Thank you, Ruchi.
Thanks so much, Adrian.
बहुत मजा आया. I think and I really respect you for your vulnerability, because you said so many things that showed not as your weakness, but you shared openly, like so I really appreciate that, and whatever you are doing is really, really, really good, and please continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adrian.